All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're tackling what is literally the single biggest, most consequential decision you're going to face before swinging a single hammer in a home renovation: hiring the right contractor. Get this right, and you add immense value and joy to your home. But get it wrong, you're looking at an absolute nightmare. So grab a notepad, because we're going to build a foolproof system to protect your home and your wallet.
You know that incredibly frustrating access denied or blocked error you sometimes get online? Well, I want you to imagine hitting a roadblock exactly like that, but right in the middle of a massive home project, maybe with your kitchen already torn down to the studs. Hitting a roadblock with a bad contractor isn't just a minor annoyance, folks. It's a total financial disaster that can literally stall your life for months or even years. And here's why we really need to take this seriously. A recent survey by the National Association of Home Builders found that nearly 30% of major renovation projects end in a significant dispute between the homeowner and the contractor. Let that sink in for a second. Almost 1 in 3 projects ends in a fight over money, timeline, or quality. The difference between a smooth project and a nightmare isn't luck, it's entirely about your process.
So, to keep you out of that 30%, here is our straightforward 4-part roadmap. We're covering the real cost of remodeling, 5 contractor red flags, 3 essential vetting questions, and finally, navigating construction in 2026. Let's get to it.
Starting off with Part 1, the real cost of remodeling.
Look, before we can figure out who to hire, we've got to talk about money. Forget those reality TV shows where a whole house gets flipped in a weekend for 20 grand. That is rarely the reality of the actual market today. Based on the 2026 Cost versus Value report, you really need to anchor your budget expectations to national median starting points. We're looking at around $80,000 for a mid-range major kitchen remodel and $150,000 or more for a primary suite addition. Sure, a cosmetic condo refresh might be a fraction of that, but for a full gut job in a single-family home, these are your baselines. Remember, the real cost of a project isn't the initial bid, it's the final check you write.
What's wild, though, is how the exact same project scope swings wildly in price based purely on where you live. Take a standard bathroom remodel where the scope of work is absolutely identical across the board. You're looking at $28,000 in the Midwest, $35 grand in the Mountain West, and nearly $42,000 in the Northeast. Why the massive spread? It all boils down to regional skilled labor costs, which have just continued to climb, especially in high-demand coastal metros. You absolutely have to plan your budget according to your specific local market.
All right, moving on to Part 2, 5 contractor red flags. Because those renovation costs we just talked about are so high, it's incredibly tempting to jump at the lowest bid. But honestly, a suspiciously low bid is almost never a bargain. It's a huge warning sign. If you spot any of these 5 non-negotiable red flags, you've got to walk away immediately. Number 1, a vague one-page contract. Number 2, demands for a massive cash down payment. Many states actually limit this to 10%, so if they want 30 or 50% up front, they might be using your money to pay off debts from their last job. Number 3, no physical business address. Number 4, high-pressure sales tactics like, this price is only good for today. And number 5, suggesting you don't actually need a permit. Skipping a permit means you assume all the risk, which can void your insurance and ruin your chances of selling the house later.
Which brings us to Part 3, 3 essential vetting questions.
Once you've successfully weeded out those dangerous low bidders, you'll ideally be left with about 3 serious contenders. Ask them this first absolute baseline question. Can I see your state license number and your certificates for general liability and workers' comp? This isn't just a formality, folks. It's about protecting yourself from massive financial liability if a worker gets hurt on your property. Without it, you are the liable party.
A true professional will respond by happily handing over their credentials, saying something like, here is my license number and the insurance certificates, and hey, feel free to call my agent to confirm the policies are active. They won't get defensive. If they hesitate at all, cross them right off your list.
Your second question should be, how do you manage communication, changes, and final punch lists? Remember that 30% dispute stat from earlier? Bad communication is the #1 reason projects fail. This question forces them to pull back the curtain and reveal their entire project management playbook.
You want an answer that proves they have a highly structured system. You're looking for a response like, we use a project management app, and all change orders are documented in writing with cost impacts requiring your signature. Basically, you want absolute assurance that there won't be any surprise bills at the end without your approval.
Our final vetting question is simple but crucial. What does your warranty include? This guarantees you aren't left high and dry the second the contractor's taillights disappear down your driveway. You need to know exactly what is covered and for how long.
A confident, high-quality contractor will give you a clear answer. They'll tell you they provide a written 2-year warranty on craftsmanship and that all materials are covered by manufacturer warranties. And honestly, they should proactively promise to hand you a binder full of all that paperwork at your final walkthrough.
Finally, Part 4, Navigating Construction in 2026.
Beyond just vetting, you've got to understand that the construction landscape has shifted a lot recently. First up, the days of sub-3% borrowing are gone. HELOC and construction loan rates have stabilized, but they're higher now. Second, while standard lumber is easy to grab, custom materials have massive lead times. Plan for 16 weeks, not 6. Third, absolutely look into the Inflation Reduction Act tax credits, which heavily incentivize things like high-efficiency heat pumps. And lastly, most areas have adopted the stricter 2024 building codes. You've got to build these 2026 realities right into your timeline and budget.
As we wrap up, let's talk about a really dangerous trap. Most people approach renovations with totally backwards priorities. They'll spend 90% of their time agonizing over tile and paint colors, and maybe 10% vetting the actual builder. You absolutely must flip that ratio. A great contractor isn't just selling you a beautiful kitchen, they are selling you a predictable, well-managed process. The beautiful kitchen is just the natural outcome of that process.
Ultimately, your success relies entirely on securing a detailed, fixed-price contract with a firm scope of work. A handshake is for greeting your contractor, not for hiring them. So, I'll leave you with this to ponder. Knowing all the risks and complexities of the modern building landscape, will you take the time to lock in your project scope in writing, or are you going to risk your biggest investment on a simple handshake?